Hi, Tara.
Hello.
Oh, good. I can hear you. You can hear me?
Yes.
Good. Good.
Right. Everyone's favorite Zoom greeting.
Hello, Echo. Echo, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There's Emily.
Hey, Anne,
Yeah.
are you changing Barbara Garrity and Precious to Barbara Garrity and Precious as opposed to you?
I'll change my own. I'll change my own name. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Barbara, do you need me to change it for you?
No, I just figured out what was going on.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I just have my volume down.
Okay, everybody can hear me, but nobody can see me.
I can see you.
Oh, well, that's a beginning.
Now I can see you even better.
And how do I look? The answer should be fantastic.
Fabulous.
All right,
Okay,
go for it.
welcome, everybody. As you can see today, it doesn't look like we have a quorum. We have Emily Simon, Tara Houston, Barbara Garrity, myself, Ann Seltzer, and our guest Echo Fields. Welcome, Echo. Nice to see you today. So today will be an informational meeting and won't be able to vote on anything because of the quorum issue. We'll call this meeting to order right now at 5:02, and we'll start with the land acknowledgement. If anyone would like to read the land acknowledgement, Tara, would you like to read it if you have it open?
Working on that. Give me just a sec.
Or perhaps Barbara could read the land acknowledgement and Tara could read the labor acknowledgement. Does that sound good?
I'm sorry, I keep meaning to figure out where it is and I don't have it open.
It's on the agenda.
It's right on the agenda.
Okay.
In fact, we moved it up to the top of the agenda to hopefully make it easier to locate it. But Anne, if you have it, why don't you just read so we can move on, unless Tara or Barbara are ready to roll, and I'm
ready. I'm ready.
Great. Good. Go.
Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge and honor the Aboriginal people on whose ancestral homelands we work, the Ikira Kutsum Band of the Shasta Nation, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here today. We denounce the egregious acts of the colonizers and government and recognize the horrific impacts that still exist today. We honor the first stewards in the Rogue Valley and the lands we love and depend on, tribes with ancestral lands in and surrounding the geography of the Ashland watershed, including the original past, present, and future indigenous inhabitants of the Shasta, Takelma, and Athabascan people. We also recognize and acknowledge the Shasta village of Kawaka, where the crow lights, that is now the Ashland City Plaza.
Thank you, Barbara. Moving on to the labor acknowledgement from Tara.
We also pause to recognize and acknowledge the labor upon which our country, state, and institutions are built. We remember that our country is built on the labor of enslaved people who were kidnapped and brought to the US from the African continent, and recognize the continued contribution of their survivors. We also acknowledge all immigrant labor, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples who contributed to the building of the country and continue to serve within our labor force. We acknowledge all unpaid caregiving labor. To the people who contribute this immeasurable work and their descendants, we acknowledge their indelible mark on the space in which we gather today. It is our collective responsibility to critically examine these histories, to repair harm, and to honor, protect, and sustain their contribution to our society.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, moving on. As I mentioned, we don't have a quorum today, so the minutes are available on the agenda from June 1st, 2023, September 7th, 2023, if anyone needs to reference them or needs that information. Next, we move on to public input, which must be submitted via the Surge contact form in writing by 10 a.m. the day of the meeting. Anne, did you want to give any updates about that, or
I'm sorry, Precious, about the,
public input?
oh, okay. So you may have noticed, you guys, on the agenda that it's been like this for a very long time. We have public input must be submitted via the Surge contact form in writing. But we are removing that stipulation from the agenda. That was in place during COVID. And so now you'll see on the agenda, it will just say public input.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, so we welcome that. And thank you for that update, Anne. And we will move on. If there's anyone that wants to submit public input for the November agenda, please let us know. Now I'm going to welcome my former colleague and present community member, Echo Fields, who is a emeritus professor at SOU and also the chair of the Housing Commission. And I was very fortunate to run into her maybe a month ago. And then we both were just chatting, and I said that we should really connect, and she was excited to connect. So Echo, feel free to introduce yourself. And yes, so happy you're here. Welcome.
Hi. Well, so luckily Gina, I see, has joined us, which is great because she's our former council liaison to my committee. So she's very familiar with what we do and have done and continue to do. So as Precious said, I'm a retired SOU sociology professor. And I taught classes on just about most things in my discipline, but specifically around social policy, social welfare, including material on housing policy and mental health and social services, and mentored students going into human service professions. And so when I retired, it was kind of like a no-brainer for me to get connected with the Housing and Human Services, now committee, not commission. So it's turned into what I realized was really an internship experience for me. I had been approaching all these issues as an academic, but am now very much on the ground, boots on the ground kind of experience. I also, and this is kind of relevant to what I'm likely to say today, I'm also a board member of the Jackson County Community Long-Term Recovery Group, which is the umbrella organization that fosters communication and collaboration between all of the organizations, big and small, that serve Alameda fire survivors. And that LTRG experience is very multicultural, far more multicultural than what we tend to do in the city of Ashland, frankly, which is something we all need to be working on. So I may say some things that come from that other hat that I wear, as well as being the chair of the Housing and Human Services Committee. So I was looking at the advisory committee work plans that the city council keeps on not getting around to reviewing at their business meetings. Gina will smile. But so what I've realized is we start to try to go to each other's meetings more. Part of what we know, all of us on all of the committees know we need to be doing, is paying attention to what each other's committees are doing so that we're all more familiar with everybody's work plans. So I was looking at yours as from the council packet from back in August now. And so there's just so much overlap between what I see on your plan and what we do in Housing and Human Services. We have done trainings, webinar trainings with the Fair Housing Council of Oregon, off and on over the last few years, which of course overlaps with all the diversity, equity, and inclusion work that you do. We explored a couple of years ago, if I remember correctly, some other cities' policies around applying an equity lens to all proposed ordinances and policy changes within cities. And we didn't really pursue that effort, but I've got that document someplace stashed on a computer where there's actually sort of some templates that some cities use to really require an assessment of any disparate impacts that changes in policy or ordinances might have on sort of disadvantaged, quote unquote, minority. I use a lot of synonyms for that. Populations. So that's another area that I know we have in common. I see that one of the things that's on your list was doing some research on, and this is sort of that equity lens issue, has done to help and interfere with civil rights of different groups. So I'm very curious about how that evolves in your work plan. For us, of course, housing policy has definite implications for the civil rights of different groups. You will see that we talk about that in some of our documents. And Gina, and you may help me remember some of the names of these things. Linda Reed is amazing and teaches us so much, but there's that report that comes out at least once a year that's maybe part of a bigger report on the obstacles to equity in housing. I forget the exact name of that document, but we're actually required federally to track the ethnic and racial composition of Ashland, and then evidence of disparities in housing related to those racial and ethnic categories. And it's like it's something about the impediments to fair housing document. I can't remember the exact title. So we have data like that could be of use to you.
Actually, that's on the Surge's webpage, that
Awesome.
document, the
So
link to that document.
Yeah, we totally overlap on that because we look at that too. Let's see.
Excuse me, I think,
Yeah.
Echo, you're referring to the fair housing analysis of impediments to fair
There
housing
you go.
choice.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's so many acronyms and I can never keep them all straight, but I know that I kind of figure them out eventually. Let's see. So, our committee is particularly prioritizing right now, as I think you're probably all aware, two major thrusts, one of which is supporting our houseless folks in the city of Ashland. And I think you're probably aware of news coverage around the purchase of the building at 2200 Ashland Street as an emergency shelter, an emergency not just for homeless folks, although it is partly that, but also emergency housing for weather shelter, both heat and warming in winter, as well as cooling shelter in summer. And smoke shelter is a real challenge, but that's part of what we need as well. That building could also serve as an emergency sort of supply depot and contact point for other emergencies. So not just around houselessness, but emergencies around earthquakes, flood, and wildfire. So it's kind of the original idea going back from a year ago from Joe Lassard was to have a building that could serve multiple emergency needs. But right now the houseless part is getting the most attention. So we spent a lot of time talking about that issue. The diversity in that population seems for us to be largely around age. We know that the average age of homeless people throughout the country, and certainly here on the West Coast, that average age is going up, and that's very evident in the folks that we see in weather shelters, frequently people over 50 into their 60s with all of the medical needs that come with that. So our other big priority is keeping an eye on the rollout of the Ashland Housing Production Strategy, which was adopted by Council this year after a couple of years of work, first with the housing capacity analysis, and then the final version of the housing production strategy. There are sections of both of those documents that are totally relevant to your agenda here in Surge, looking at again the racial and ethnic composition of the city of Ashland. We have a slight increase in the proportion of Latino, Hispanic folks in our community, but we're still like 98.8% white folks, and then about 10% Hispanic now. So our racial and ethnic diversity is often not particularly visible, but we know it's there. Let's see. We also have on our mission the social services piece, which is paying some attention to mental health, mental illness, addictions, organizations and treatment. All of that, of course, overlaps with everything else in our agenda. Our one most visible piece of progress in recent years in that regard has been the opening of the Columbia Care Permanent Supportive Housing development that you see behind the South Side Road Credit Union. And that used to be a low-income mobile home park 22 years ago. And those folks got pushed out of that land by the owner of that property. It sat vacant for 15 years until finally the credit union bought part of it, and then the rest of it got used for the Rogue Ridge apartments. So those are very low income folks who need permanent 24/7 support to be able to live with dignity and some degree of security. We need, obviously, throughout the state of Oregon, we need so much more of that. We need more of so many things. So there's obviously so much overlap between what you guys do and what we do. So it's figuring out ways to stay in touch with each other is something that we know we need to do a much better job of. Our council liaisons currently are Bob Kaplan and Dylan Bloom. And Gina did that work and was a member of the commission even before you were on council, if I remember correctly. So Gina has really deep knowledge of what we do, and for which we are very grateful. And Gina, did I leave out anything that I should have said?
I can't think of anything you might have left out. What I really appreciate is how you put together the cross-pollination and how there's so much common ground, I think, especially in these two committees. We have several others, but when I think about these two committees, the continuity, the ability to work together, I feel is so important, especially when it comes time to where we are now with the shelter that you mentioned.
Right.
In October, I think it's 18th or 19th,
Right.
there's going to be an open house at the shelter. And I believe for the Housing and Human Services Committee, the Surge Committee to be there because it is social justice regarding what's going on over there at the shelter.
Yeah, it's if you've been sort of following events, there's some contention around the building, and so I keep trying to kind of pass along valid, official, confirmed information as best I can, to try to not stir pots that don't need any more stirring. But there are concerns about houseless people being scary and concerns about feces and needles and fires, and so trying to combat some of the stigma and stereotyping of houseless folks is something I'm pretty passionate about. So I try to do that and we all do that on the committee as best we can.
Thank you so much, Echo. I just have a quick question. Are there subcommittees within your committee, or do you kind of just work all together as one?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking me, because that reminded me of something important I should have said. We do have a work group, right? We had a work group 2 summers ago working on revising Ashland's emergency weather triggers policies. I and Rich Rohde, Linda Reed, and Joy Fate worked on that, and then that turned into official city policy now. So we've had that kind of work group in the past. Currently, we have a work group focused on relationships between renters and property management companies.
Okay.
And number 3, related to that, November 9th, mark the date, we're having our annual rent burden meeting. That's a meeting that's required because we get money from the federal government, from HUD, in the form of a community development block grant to support improving housing opportunities. So we're required to have that meeting annually. It will be November 9th, 4:30 to 6:30 in the Gresham Room of the Ashland Public Library. We're going to do it more informally this time rather than a stiff presentation. We're going to have small group tables, breakout sessions to talk about specific subtopics, including, for example, nuts and bolts advice about dealing with landlord-tenant disputes. And sometimes, here's another area of overlap, sometimes those landlord-tenant disputes are around racial discrimination and discrimination based on disability and discrimination based on LGBTQ identity. So this is another one of those places where what you all think about and what my group thinks about absolutely connects. So 4:30 to 6:30, November 9th. Stay tuned for more details. I'm sure it'll get posted on the city website.
Thank you so much, Echo. I really appreciate identifying these intersections of where our committees overlap. Let's open it up to any questions or info that if you have questions for Echo, or if you have questions for us, Echo, we'll open that up a bit right now.
I have a question.
Sure, Gina.
Thank you. Echo, I heard you say that the Housing and Human Services Committee is working with renters and property management companies.
We're doing some research on, so not talking to people at this point, but it's doing some research, for example, on Oregon law, the Oregon revised statutes around issues like what property management companies and landlords can do around applicant screening fees, which many folks, renters, experience is really onerous. So we're not terribly clear about how well informed landlords or property management companies are about the fine points of Oregon revised statutes, particularly probably small landlords. We also have a couple of people on the committee that have an interest in the impact of Airbnbs on the availability of rentals. There's a perception that it's a big issue in Ashland. It's very hard to get good data on that because we think there's probably an informal economy of unregistered Airbnbs. We're not real clear on how effective the city can be in enforcing the ordinance that we do have in place. So that group is looking at some of those issues, and that list of interests is kind of connected to some pieces in the housing production strategy. Because one way to produce more housing is to make sure that housing isn't getting diverted out of the long-term rental market into the short-term travelers market. So, but it's really hard to have really good data on some of this. And we know that we need to have facts, not just anecdotes.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah. Can I say one thing from my LTRG, long-term recovery group world? One of the things that came out of the fire, the Alameda fire, such a high proportion of people who were displaced there were Spanish speaking. So it's been really encouraging to see how in talent in Phoenix at any rate, organizations have really stepped up to offer translation and interpretation in all of those services. Have worked with organizations like UNITE to really make sure that those Spanish-speaking populations are getting information and support. And that includes groups like Coalición Fortaleza, that's reconstructing some housing units in talent in Phoenix, as well as there's a nonprofit mental health organization that I'm not remember the name of right now, but there are Spanish language mental health supports, counseling supports that are coming online increasingly in the Valley. And I know that's another issue that your group would probably be interested in. So I know a little bit about some of that. If I can ever help you sort of gather information on that topic, please let me know and I can connect you with my other network.
Thank you, Echo. I know
Okay.
we talked about meeting back in August, so thank you for continuing on this conversation with us, and also your patience of getting you onto the October agenda, because we were really wanting that to happen, and lots of really, really important information. So feel free to use me or our co-chair Emily or Ann Seltzer as a contact if you like us to distribute information within Surge, and I will be in touch with you throughout our time as chairs together. And thank you.
Awesome, very good. Okay, I'm going to leave your meeting unless you need me to stay for some reason.
Come march with us on Saturday, October the 7th.
Oh, right, it's Pride Day. I'm excited.
It's Pride Day, and we've got a Surge banner. We got the city of Ashland. We're all marching together. You do the stuff with the city of Ashland. Come show your pride and come march with us.
Absolutely. Always look forward to it. And
Great.
at least this year I won't be stuck grading papers for 7 hours that day. Which was my old life.
Yeah,
that
right.
was my
Well, that's
old
good.
life.
You can come and give us all A's. We get all A's.
Absolutely. Very good. Okay, you guys take care. And I'll keep an eye out because I know you're short on members. I'll keep an eye out to see if I run across people who I think might be good applicants for your committee.
Thank you. We really need them, or else we can't do very much. So thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys hang in there. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. That was Echo, and I appreciate her patience of waiting until October to come visit us. So that was great. We'll be moving on to Barbara Garrity's update on
Precious. Ann has to leave at 5:30, so maybe we could go.
No, that's not my text. I don't know who wrote that.
Oh, okay.
Does somebody need to leave at 5:30?
Oh, Gina.
Oh, Gina.
Okay.
Should we move to the part of any council staff liaison updates, since Gina has to leave?
Thank you. I'm glad I could be here for Echo. Echo is a wealth of knowledge, and I'm glad that we all had time to talk to her. So something that I just wanted to say quickly, I have to go to the chamber dinner tonight. So hence the lipstick. So I got to jam out the door. But
you look beautiful.
Thank you. But something that I thought about, Emily, you mentioned about the Pride Parade. And we are short members. I think the Pride Parade is one of the best places to find members. So I'm going to have my eyes out. Everybody will have our eyes out. And I think that's a great place for us to recruit some new Surge committee members. And then I wanted to also say, Echo talked about 2 people being in the liaison. Well, we are going to welcome, Mayor Graham has appointed Jeff Dale to be our backup, be our second liaison. And Jeff signed up and he was just like, Gina, I want to know, I want to learn. I said, well, come on board. So I guess Ann will be sending Jeff the link for the November meeting so that he can come on board and meet everyone also. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is October 10th or the 19th is when there will be an open house at the shelter on Ashland Street. And I think it's so important that we come and show up and be there because of the inequities that happen, because of, you know, like Echo said, the people, we're all people, but for the grace of God go I. So just to be able to meet people where they are and everybody have the right to live in dignity and listen to our unhoused and our housed residents. And I think that would be a wonderful show of solidarity if some surge members could be there, because I think it's important. And that'll be posted, the final date when that happens. I am going to be leaving for New York on the 18th. I won't be here, so I won't be able to come. But I do look forward to hearing what happens.
Thank you.
I want to talk for just a second, Precious, okay? It's on an issue that's further down the agenda, which is MLK Day. And Gina, what I really want to communicate to you is that I know that I just want to clarify an expectation, because I know that last year when we had said that we would really work on it and do it, we had a robust group, and we don't now. And I personally, I'm feeling really, really stretched thin. And I just don't think that we will have the person power to be in any way in the lead on Martin Luther King Day in January. And I just wanted to tell you now, since it's October, because we would need to start working now if we were really going to be in the lead. And I don't think we can.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because the status of that right now, and I appreciate that, Emily, is that Toya Cooper, who was with SOU, was pretty much driving the bus and doing a really good job of it. And then she had to leave for family reasons. So then it was left with her office, and what direction do we go into? And usually we start this conversation in October, but Emily, like you said, we, talked about it earlier on this year. So I look forward to having picking up our meetings at the end of October with SOU, with BASE, with the chamber, the Ashland Chamber, and seeing where we are and where we're moving forward. Right now, I know that we were looking at money. How much is it at the Medford Armory? How much is it at the Ashland Armory? I did get the amounts for the Ashland Armory, and they are working with us pretty well. I think Ashland is more cost effective, and we'll see where that leads and what the vision is. And of course, I will report back and let everyone know.
Okay, thanks a lot, Gina. And I totally agree with you about pride, and that's why I'm very glad that we have the banner and we're marching with the city. So thank you.
Yes, and you're right there with the city. And I thought about that yesterday. I thought, wow, this is a great base. We have to pull everybody we know. Too bad we don't have cards, to pass out. But we can definitely take names. So
Right.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much, Gina.
Thank you, Gina.
everyone. Okay, be
Have
well.
a great evening.
See you on Saturday.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we'll be moving on to the next item on our agenda, which is Barbara Garrity, giving an update on the research of racism in Ashland. Barbara, you're up.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say I appreciate this opportunity to dive into the history of Oregon and Ashland specifically when it comes to this topic, because first, as a newcomer, I didn't know any of this. A second thing that happened, I'm really a move forward person and I don't dabble in the past. And somewhere along the way, probably conversations of people that gently coached me, I realized that this in particular, this area is something that, and maybe many areas, but this is an area, the reconciliation path, you can't possibly move forward until you face the past. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I did do a written report and I'm just going to talk through it in our time together. I thought about doing a PowerPoint. I thought about sending you the report in advance, but then I thought, no, I'm just going to talk through it and give a quick overview, and then you can, it's only like a page and a half, but you can look at it after I send it. But first of all, the parameters that Mayor Tanya Graham provided are listed at the beginning of this report. And I'm not going to go through and read all of them, but the main purpose of the research I did was to identify where the city of Ashland has helped and interfered with civil rights of different groups of people. She listed them. I'm just going to use the word BIPOC from now on. I know not everybody likes it, but it's easy to say. So the report, I covered where we've been, where we are now, and potential next steps. So to begin with where we've been, I also listed my sources, but my findings, my research didn't reveal discriminatory ordinances or actions by the city of Ashland specifically. But I did discover troubling historical events that could, and I think do, discourage people of color from making Ashland their home. And that's in addition to, I tried to stay in my lane, but that's in addition to the economic factors that we're all aware of and that Echo just pointed to as well, of they can't afford to, a lot of people can't afford to live here anyway. But even if they can afford to live here, maybe they might not want to. And so just a quick overview, there's 6 bullet points. But one, because we've talked about it a lot, you can look through this yourself. This was mostly research pulled by Southern Oregon Historical Society, but I also met with Jeff Lalande. And because we've been talking, everybody is talking a lot about sundown towns. That's probably a lot because of the book Sundown Towns by David Lowen, and Jeff referred to that. And what Jeff told me is, there were no official ordinances in any town in America that said Blacks had to be out of town by sundown. That wouldn't be constitutional, but instead it was an unspoken rule that Blacks weren't welcome after sundown, and it was enforced, his word was extra legally. So I think we all know what that means. And I think that's what I feel is still showing up today in some of the things that I'm going to cover now, segueing over to where we are now. So first of all, I'm from the business world. In the business world, there's a saying, follow the data, follow the data, follow the data. And currently Ashland is 90% white. I know you know this, 10% BIPOC, compared to the US population that is 59% white and 41% BIPOC. So there's a discrepancy. And although my research didn't discover specific ordinances or public policies by City of Ashland, I definitely discovered a cultural pattern of exclusion and microaggression that I believe correlates with and contributes to the problem in those demographics. And once again, I have 6 bullets, and I'm sure all of you are aware of all of these different things, so I'm not going to go through them. I also have a quote but you can take a look at them. There's some good links, including a very troubling video of an OSF actor being beaten in a cell in Ashland. I mean, I found some very disturbing stuff. Mike Green I talked to everybody I know that could add some light to this, but Mike Green really summarized it the very best, I thought. So I included an entire quote because I think he just has his finger on the pulse. And even though he doesn't currently live in Ashland, and I personally would love to fix that, but he, in addition to doing work with different stakeholders in this topic in Ashland, he was content editor for Ashland Daily Tidings. So his quote, I think, is very powerful. And just to give the flip side, I mostly focused on where the city of Ashland has hindered, according to Mayor Graham's instruction, but she also asked where it helped. I think that's a whole different topic. I need another month, but I did find one thing, just to throw in something fun. I found road tripping while Black in Oregon, which is a really fun blog, I guess, seeing young people on a road trip. But his comment, I was the most nervous about traveling through Southern Oregon, but Ashland was very welcoming and friendly, and I didn't get ignored by business owners or waiters like I had in other rural areas. So it was nice to stumble on that. Anyway, my conclusion from the research I did is that the Black exclusion laws have served their purpose very well because they've replicated a culture that does the work that the laws did initially. Less in Ashland than in other places, thank God, but here as well. And it is felt here as well by people of color. And I think, being the optimist I am, that we have an opportunity to lead the way in changing the narrative arc from exclusion to inclusion. So potential next steps, I also listed the action items from Mayor Graham. They're robust, especially considering the current size of our committee. But I also wanted to throw in a recommendation of my own. As probably everybody knows, I worked alongside adjacent to corporate DEI for 4 years. And the first thing they always do is they survey the population to make sure that they are heard. And they use that, first of all, that does some of the reparative work, the reconciliation work we're talking about, but also to inform the strategies and action plans. So I suggest a survey, and by the way, this is the what and why. I have no idea about the how, but I suggest a survey. There's only 1,978 BIPOC in Ashland, so this is not unmanageable, I don't think, by any means. And asking them what's working for people of color in Ashland, what isn't, what could be better or different, what kind of identity does Ashland have from their point of view? I'm not sure we know that. If anybody does know that, I didn't find it in some pretty extensive preliminary research. Then do a strategic gap analysis, what is the identity we intend to have or maybe think we have? And what is the identity we actually have with people of color, and what is the gap? And then from there, design the action plan. And not only a campaign of actionable steps, but I'm all into social media amplification. So I believe that's the way we change the narrative, is through social media with stories of what's working and progress reports on what's not and how we're fixing it. An example of this, if we wanted to pick what I think should be low-hanging fruit that almost everybody mentions, is we would get the friggin' name of Dead Indian Memorial Highway changed. That annoys everybody. So that's just me being an Enneagram 8 for a minute, but take steps that the low-hanging fruit, the easy, quick wins. That's the first thing you do in business, is you get some small success easily, and then you talk about it, so people know you're on the move, and then you start doing the harder stuff. So also under this survey idea, the model for this, one of the models, a lot of cities are doing this, but I found information on the city of Long Beach, obviously a much larger city than we are, but they gathered 1,500 people. We only have 1,978 to begin with, the entire population. So they gathered 1,500 people into 13 listening sessions in 4 community town halls. And to have these conversations, they partnered with CSU-LB. I've been told we have a great university right in town. That's what I've heard. So they partnered with CSU-LB to analyze the data. And then from the survey data, they created 21 distinct strategies and 107 potential action plans. So I know that sounds overwhelming, but they're Long Beach, we're Ashland. I think that path would serve us well, of talking to people who already live in Ashland and getting their perspective on it. And from that, coming up with some manageable number of action plans with a very strong social media strategy to underlie the whole thing. So that's my report. I will send the written report to Anne as soon as the call is finished, and I have my sources listed at the end. Questions?
Thank you so much, Barbara. Yeah,
You're
Emily.
Barbara, I really want to thank you for all the time and effort that you put in. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I want to say, as the person with gray hair who has lived here for a very long time and who probably started with hair that wasn't quite as gray, the issue over the name of the road that I will not say out loud has been a very long and contentious issue, and it's a county commissioner's issue. And if you look back at either the Ashland Tidings or the Medford Mail Tribune, in terms of a historical look at it, I think that you will see that there have been repeated efforts by the City Council of Ashland to get them to change the name. The other issue there is the way in which it also interfaces with ODOT, with the Oregon Department of Transportation. And it's not, the reason I'm telling you this, Barbara, is because I don't believe that in any group other than this right now, that you could use the expression low-hanging fruit for this, for anybody who had been through these fights.
Okay.
And
thank you for that. I probably shouldn't have said that without at least doing a background search. Let me ask you about the survey. Has any surveying been done? And remember, I'm just trying to learn, but has any surveying been done, or could that be accomplished? Do we have the means and resources to survey some percentage of 2,000 people to get their lay of the land and not just our white lay of the land?
Anne, I think, can answer that. And then if Anne doesn't answer it, I will.
Well, Emily might have a better answer, but my the first thing that comes to my mind is Precious. How does Barbara team up with the whatever it's being called now?
Yeah, thank you. The whole time I was thinking, listening to Barbara, I was like, oh, a lot of our goals overlap and intersect with what we're doing with City of Ashland, with Joe Lissard's, which was originally called the Welcome Project, but now we're working together with Source, which is the SOU Research Center. And I'll go to Tara, and then after Tara, and then after that, I'll kind of elaborate on some of our common areas of those goals and what we've been working on. Yeah, go ahead, Tara, and then I'll switch back over to some of that.
Thanks, Precious. One of the things that immediately came to mind for me about polling people who live in Ashland already is that they already live in Ashland. And perhaps the more interesting question is to survey people in the surrounding area, people of color in the surrounding areas, about why they don't live in Ashland, right? I mean, if folks are already here, then we've accomplished something there, right? Like, their desire to be in Ashland has outweighed the negative parts of potentially living in Ashland. But, my question is, what's happening in Talent, what's happening in Phoenix, what's happening in Medford, what's happening in Klamath Falls, what are happening in the other parts of Jackson and Josephine counties that are more affordable. And I wonder if that might lend itself to different answers to those questions and data that might be bigger to obtain and probably a harder sample set to put together, but might actually yield the information that we need.
I think that's a great idea. I think, I think just for, I'm going to say marketing purposes, because I don't have time to think of a better word. I think understanding if the people of color who live in Ashland right now, do they feel safe? Are they satisfied living here? I just think we need to check that box. I really heard some things, and I'm not going to mention names, but I heard some things. I heard the same thing from all the people of color that I talked to. And these are people who have fabulous lives here. And they do, they do have fabulous lives here, and they say that too. But there are elements of things that they are dealing with. There's an element of distrust and uncertainty. They do not live with the same sense of security, I think, that we do, that you and I do, Tara, for example. So, I think the second part, just being practical, is I thought we probably already have that contact information on the 1978 people of color that live in Ashland, where it might be, and I don't know, I've never worked within city government, but I feel like we probably have some type of database of the people that live here. Census data or something like that, it might be easier. But I think that to go out then to surrounding areas, especially if we have some good things to say about living in Ashland for people of color, and if that has informed some strategies on the employment, housing, and culture issues that we're completely aware of. Somebody in talent might really want to live in Ashland, but they can't afford to. So that's another thing too.
Thank you. Thank you both for your perspectives and the information and inquiries you're offering. I'll go back to a little bit about what some of the overlap, and maybe Barbara, I don't know if pulling you into some of the work that we are doing and are going to do would help, as well as kind of give our committee an update of what's happening. So initially, Joe Lissard, our city manager, came to Surge, and he was wanting to do a welcome project. I met with him. I offered 3 different ideas. All 3 he liked, but it's kind of a slow process of implementing them. One was to understand and provide information and visibility of businesses that were managed or owned by a marginalized identity. There's, which used to also be my family's, there were many of us here, but we kind of didn't know about each other. And to create that type of, whether it was a map or a guide or something like that. So that was one. Possibly have some low-key type of receptions of inviting people to these different businesses. So we were kind of working with possibly Chamber of Commerce with that. And then the other one that we were doing, which has to do with that component of research, was getting some qualitative research of the people that have lived here that are of marginalized identities, and especially those that were, I was trying to emphasize 3 generations, because I do know a handful, and I think that says something, that they're of different families that have been here for 3 generations, to have whether it's your parents move here and retire, have children. That was something that I was really interested in. And so we're working on that, and also possibly interviewing some of those families of their experiences here as a person who has been here for 3 generations, and why, and how has that been part of your family's life. And as I mentioned, we're working with SOURCE, which is SOU Research Center. And and they already have a little some information. I don't know how much quantitative information, but that's part of their what they do, is to compile that type of information. So I could connect you with who we're working with. And we're also working with the Digital Media Center of SOU as well, but they also do a lot of local media. The third thing that I had suggested to Joe Lassard, which is not something that we have really started on working yet, was that social media component of, I was telling him that there's like a handful of us, including myself and including Nataki when she was here, that would post things about what was happening in Ashland and like would post on social media. And to be able to have a type of archive or like a type of social media site. A lot of social media sites nowadays, they, with permission, will ask to download. Can we download this video you make? Can we post it on ours? So having those people that are already making social media posts and videos and all of that stuff, be able to, one, kind of archive it, but also put it out on a social media feed where we ask people, hey, can we repost what you are doing? And we would love to show that off, and not just for the Ashland or Southern Oregon people to know about each other, but also like for tourism as well. So that was something that we were we have, I don't know if he has and I just don't know about it, but that we were thinking of working with Chamber of Commerce on. So I feel like, Barbara, you should be in our like this, well, it's not a subcommittee, it's just me, but like we should team up and get you into this conversation of like kind of what's already starting. And I think that like your ideas are right in alignment with the things that we've been wanting to do. So thank you.
That sounds wonderful. I mean, I want to say one thing. I cannot believe that SOURCE has SOURCE as an acronym. I cannot even believe how well that worked out. That's just absolutely beautiful. But I am really interested in the social media component. I just really feel like, I mean, we all see what's happening, and especially with younger populations. I know almost everything that I get involved with now, event-wise, organization-wise, or thought leader-wise, comes to me through social media. And we have some strong things that, you know, that could jumpstart our social media game. OSF has 66,000 followers on Facebook. That's 60, and I know because I met with Tara yesterday and she gave me some stats. So I do understand that a lot of, they're not all Ashland residents, obviously, because it's, you know, more people than even live here. But it still is back to that narrative arc, changing our narrative arc. Social media is the way to do that. And we already have really strong social media contenders that we can partner up with and tell our story as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories that are being told, and it's hard because they're kind of all in different areas, or if you're in one network but not the other. So that's something that we're kind of hoping to work with, is bring these stories all together, distribute it for not only each other but tourism as well. So, and there's like, just, I think our area, it's very attractive in terms of just the backdrop catches a lot of people's eye when we're scrolling through social media. So Barbara, thank you so much for all of your hard work. And you know, you just have really reached out in so many directions for having been here for like 7 months or 8 months. So thank you for that.
7 months yesterday. But I just want to reiterate, thank you for letting me learn. I didn't know any of this stuff, and obviously this is the tip of the iceberg. And also thank you for your patience with me. Whenever anybody's in their learning curve, they come up with ideas that are completely unfounded or have already been tried and failed before, or just don't fit, and also like repeat a lot of the things that you already know. And thank you that nobody rolling their eyes. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Emily.
Okay, and now that I've unmuted, I can say it. Barbara, thank you very much for what you're doing, and your efforts that you have gone to and speaking to different people. I think that some of the data that you are looking for does exist from either an odd place, which is Travel Southern Oregon, because they did an entire survey of what would motivate a more diverse population to come here, even just for tourism. and I think it could give you some of the answers for what you're looking for. I think the Rotary has done a bunch of this work. And I think the Chamber of Commerce has also done a bunch of this work. And I'm not remembering the first name of Ms. Slattery. I wish I did. Thank you, Sandra. It's very approachable, and I think that there may be a wealth of the follow the data that you are looking to follow.
Great.
And you're not as needing to reconstruct so much of it. It's just a thought.
Thanks.
I'll connect you with her, Barbara, if you like.
Sounds good.
Any
And
other
thank you, Barbara.
questions, comments? Okay, let's move on because we still have a handful of agenda items. Thank you, Barbara. Okay, now we go to Pride Parade planning, which is Emily.
I can do this pretty quickly, everybody. Things are going really good. I met with Mayor Graham again today. And there is now, so we're marching with them, okay, to increase our numbers and to make us look a little more robust than we are. I encourage anybody and everybody, Tara, I know that you're taken, to come on that day and just find us on Union Street. The city of Ashland is going to have a banner. We have a banner. And the latest is we're trying to get the Ashland City Band to come and play with us, or at least have some music or something that would make us stand out even more. So I do think that the only way that we will get other members, and how crucial that is if we get more visibility and people know we exist. So Barbara, I'm glad that you can be there, and I thank you for being there. And the other thing I want to say, and I don't need to be stealing Tara's thunder here, but maybe I do just a little bit, is if there's anybody out there who wants a free ticket for rent for Saturday night, or wants to go to any of the events at OSF that will be taking place from 2:30 on that day, or wants to come hear me talk about what it was like to live in New York during this period, please either just let me know. I know all of you, and I can absolutely get you a ticket, as could Tara, or you can sign up on the QR code. And in the meantime, the mayor is coming to the show on Saturday night with one of her daughters, and the diverse crowd that I think we're going to be able to get into the theater is really making me very proud in terms of So Pride. So, for example, we have somebody in the Rogue Valley who has worked very, very hard to increase the number of Latinx people who will be there that night. So we're really trying to make sure that we have different people of all different sorts in the audience, and the cast is very excited. So if you want a ticket, just let me know.
Emily, what time do we meet at Union Street?
Well, the parade starts at 11, and people start lining up like between 9:30 and 10:30. And I usually, by now, I'm giving you a really long answer, Barbara, is I'll probably, me, myself, and I, so that's three of us, will probably get there around 10:15.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Emily, we're just wearing whatever we feel comfortable with. There's no I know I got my kids little rainbow shirts, and so I guess yes, feel free to wear whatever you like on that
Right.
day.
And we've got the little flags. So I think that it's going to be it's a celebration is what it is. And it's not nearly this march here in Ashland, having marched in New York many times, having marched in Washington, D.C., having marched in London, this march here has a very different feeling, because there are many people here who really do face discrimination on a daily basis, in a way that is very different than in a large metropolitan area. So please, I really urge everybody. And
thanks, Emily. Gina had sent an update just right before our meeting started with a new order of the lineup. But Barbara, in her email, she's saying, please be there no later than 10.
okay,
And then for Precious and Emily as co-chairs, she writes, please be there no later than 10. Come to the corner of Union and Siskiyou to check in. So she wants the marchers to check in before you start lining up. So,
Okay.
not sure.
okay. Could you forward that email to me, Anne?
Yes, yeah.
I'd really appreciate that. And thank you for telling me that it existed.
Thank you. Thank you very
And,
much.
and I have something that I want to say to everybody who's marching, because it's really important. If you don't check in, it doesn't matter. If you're standing by the side of the road and I see you, Barbara, I will just pull you in to marching. I can't tell you the number of times that I have pulled people into marching. The only place you can't do that in is London, because you're in barriers so that you can't increase the numbers of people. Okay, not to worry.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we will move on. We have an update on Indigenous Peoples Day, which we've been working with at the people at SOU, Lupe Sims and Brooke Colley. And I think it was just this week, or at least I just received it this week, their Indigenous Peoples Day 2023 list of events. I'll read it, but I'll also send it to Anne for Anne to send it out to everybody. On Sunday, October 8th, Where We Belong by Madeline Sayet. Am I saying that right, Tara? Okay, thank you.
S-E-Y-E-T.
Yes, I'll send out the flyer or for OSF. That will be happening at 1:30, followed by hosted refreshments, and I will give you all the information on that in the flyer. On Monday, October 9th, there is a salmon bake at SOU in the courtyard from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is always such a great event and so many wonderful speakers, food, and just like very family friendly. Welcome by Lupe Sims, and then some guest speakers. Also on Monday, a formal dedication of Oregon 9 federally recognized tribal flags will also happen during that time. Klamath Tribe's cultural presentation and community round dance will also be on Monday, October 9th at the SOU Stevenson Union Courtyard. And children's activities, which is a free cultural event, will happen from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at SOU, the ASSOU Center, and that is also co-hosted by Ashland School District, Native American Studies. And there will be free parking in lot 36. I will send out this flyer to everybody. Last year, our Surge member, Angela Howdecker, and I attended. It was a wonderful event. So just drop in during the hours you can. You don't have to stay during the whole event. There's always something very interesting happening. And we're so happy to be able to work and be invited by SOU for these events for this day. Any questions? Okay, I'll send that to Anne and she could send it out to our committee. We talked briefly about MLK celebrations and some of the challenges that we have in terms of just people to be able to coordinate anything. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Emily, in thinking, or Anne, or anybody in thinking of MLK? Last year I was on JPR and I also spoke at the celebration in the plaza. Those were a couple of things that happened. But anything else that you'd like to add, Emily, or any of our members?
Nope, it's premature.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, update on recruiting for the committee. we have had a couple or one individual who expressed interest, and so following up with that individual again, but also just really emphasizing and encouraging us to have people join and have members, and anyone who would like to be part of our committee, they are welcome. The hard part sometimes is that they have to be City of Ashland resident. There's a lot of people that I would love to have on our committee, but I had found out that they are not City of Ashland residents. Anything that anyone would like to add to that?
I have a question, Precious. Do we have a written list of criteria, or maybe even just some suggestions about who we're looking for as committee members? Because I think I've been making it up in my own head, and it might be good to ask for some clarification on that. Even when we were talking about approaching people at the parade, when Gina said something, I assume she's talking about approaching people she already knows that she would. I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, do I just walk up to people in restaurants? You know, I mean, I think some guidance on what we're looking for and what a good approach would be. Since this is almost the biggest problem we have in this committee right now is recruitment, I think maybe we should put some rigor around it.
Can I make a suggestion on this, please? And ask Ann Seltzer if she wouldn't mind, just to get sort of Precious and I started, because Barbara, I think it's a really, really good suggestion. And I think that then if we had that suggestion, then we could also send it to the city council and to our counselors and say, this is what we're looking for. So Ann, if I could ask you to please do a rough draft of sort of synthesize the multiple conversations that we've had for a long time and do a rough draft, and then both Precious and I as the co-chairs will look at it. And I think it's an excellent idea, Barbara. And then if we are trying to go beyond, Barbara, one of the things that you talked about when you were doing your presentation, which is so true, is social media. I mean, we haven't done, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know what's been on the website beyond just, are you interested in this? Please join us. And I think we need to do a little more targeted and a little more, this is what it entails and this is what it involves. So if I can put that on your plate to start us off, Ann, I'd appreciate it.
I'll add it to the list.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else relating to recruitment? Okay, moving on. Anne, are there any additional updates for council or staff liaison?
I just have a follow-up. Barbara, you're still on the hunt for new MLK flags, right? Or not really?
I found some and sent them to Emily, and I think she liked them. I'll let her comment, but wasn't sure they were sturdy enough. So
yeah,
that's
they're 3x5s. And I don't think that's big enough or sturdy enough for what has to be on the flagpoles.
So what's, I mean, 3x5 or 3x6 works. It's the mill. It's the fabric that it's made out of. The flags that we bought last year, that you guys all liked, and so we went with it. They couldn't stand up in the weather.
what did they cost, Dan?
I don't remember.
Do you remember ballparky at all?
Maybe 100 per flag.
Yeah, see, Emily globbed right onto the fact that these were $13.50, and so that they're probably not the sturdy flags we're looking for. What I found on Amazon and Etsy were the flags we already looked at that we didn't like, and a couple others that I sent to Emily. But now that we've gone through that on a first pass, I think we're probably going to have a custom flag made. It seems like there's like literally 5 to 7 that are, pre-made off the shelf that you can order, and then you have to go to custom. And since we're going to be using these every year, right? I mean, it makes sense to me to invest in the flags if we have a budget for it.
I have a question. The flag that Tammy had designed, a prior member, remind me if that was for Juneteenth or if that was for MLK Day. I don't remember.
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
Okay. All right. So Barbara.
So here's what I'm trying to get to. We need to get this order in. So I might have to order a flag that you guys don't love, but that's has to be how it is. So if you've got something that you like, that Emily has, send it to me. I'll find out. And if not, I'm going to go back to the drawing board and pick the flag that I had sent to you originally. You didn't like that much, but the options are limited and we have to get the order in. It takes the ones last year that everybody landed on. I think those came from Germany of all places. That's where they were manufactured. So, and so it takes a lot longer to get them. So while I know everybody wants to be involved and weigh in on what you like and not like, in the end, I need to order these flags. So,
right.
If
Tara?
it were possible for me to see images, I might be able to share them with our prop shop and costume shop at OSF to see if there's anyone there that would be interested in manufacturing them. It might be a less expensive way of having a custom flag done. I'm just not sure what we're looking at.
it's Martin Luther King's image. We've had Martin
Right.
Luther King
Wait,
images
wait.
with a quote. We've had.
Hold on, Anne. Barbara, the one that you sent to me that we both liked.
Yeah, with the black
Okay.
background.
Yeah. Can you just forward that to Tara?
Yes, I will.
Okay, and then wait a minute. Okay, because that was the one that we liked. Now, Tara, here is my question for you, which relates to what Anne was saying in terms of the timing on it, is in reality, and I know maybe just the tip of the iceberg for everything you have on your flow, as it were. When do you think in reality the timing of that would be for somebody at OSF to be able to say, yeah, I can do this, I can have this, and we can have it by fill in the date? Realistically.
If I can have a week to reach out to folks, I can give you a better idea. In a week, I can commit to whether there's a possibility or we should move forward with ordering something.
Okay, I want to give you that week. And then after that, Anne, just pick one of them.
Then the other thing is, I'm looking.
Hey, Tara, thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Very nice offer.
The other thing I'm looking into is Asian heritage flag representation. I know it's a long way off, May, but Joe has just, checked in with me. And have you looked into this at all? I did start looking into Asian heritage graphics in May of this year, and much of it is Asian heritage, Pacific people graphics. Anyway, just if you come across something, let me know. But we'll be trying to get something like that going.
Wonderful, thank you, Anne. Yeah, I'll do some research on that and see if I can find a graphic that expresses it well.
Okay.
Thank you. So for our Surge members, I wanted to ask on our agenda, is there any updates for anybody? Okay, I think we have a pretty busy month ahead in terms of Pride and Indigenous Peoples Day, and I know that.
Oh, wait, I do have a question. Is there somebody amongst those of us here who are on the Zoom screen, because I can't go, who can actually go on October 19th, assuming it's the 19th, to the open house on behalf of Surge?
What time is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they gave us a time yet. I could go to the November 9th, which is a rent burden meeting. I can't go to the October 19th one. I'll be out of town on that day, but I'm hoping to go to the November 9th meeting, which is at 4:30 to 6:30.
I
Okay.
can go if it's in the evening. Well, I can go if it's any time after 3:30.
Okay,
All
I'll
right.
find out the time for you. I'll touch base with Echo and see what the time is. I don't think she knew at the time or today, but I'll give you any updates.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you, everybody. I know we have so
Yeah.
much going on in terms of work and family, and I hope that everyone stays healthy and can maneuver and successfully take care of yourselves and the people around you. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Saturday for the Pride Parade, hopefully also on Monday for Indigenous Peoples Day. And thank you so much for your time and energy and all of your wonderful thoughts and suggestions. So thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome,
Precious.
Precious. Thank you.
Bye,
See you
everyone.
Saturday, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.